This is Guided by Wellness with Dr. Magnus Thorsson, your source for clarity on the science of cannabis wellness.
For too long, women have had to settle, pushing through period pain, sleepless nights, and hormonal roller coasters with few options beyond pills, side effects, or just toughing it out. But what if there was a better way? One that's plant-based, targeted, and designed by women for women. In this episode of Guided by Wellness, I'm joined by Lisa Williams, CEO of Hello Again, a cannabis wellness brand offering vaginal suppositories made with hemp-derived cannabinoids and calming botanicals. Together, we explore how cannabis is quietly and powerfully helping women reclaim balance without the buzz. Whether you're a budtender looking to guide with more confidence or a consumer curious about what cannabis can really do for your body, this episode will open the door to new possibilities. Let's get into it. Hello and thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Dr. Magnus Thorsson, professor of cannabis entrepreneurship at Johnson & Wales University and founder of Canna Curious Wellness. Today's focus: why traditional care still fails women, how vaginal cannabis suppositories support hormonal and menstrual health, what to expect and how to talk about these products with customers, breaking taboos around the V word, and reclaiming body literacy. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. And I wanted to ask you first, can you tell our listeners what your position is? And then can you tell them how you first came to cannabis?
Thank you, Magnus. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I am the CEO of Hello Again. And then I'm also the founder of the Toke Agency. So I'm running two businesses simultaneously. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so tell us a little bit about the Toke Agency, because we are going to dive into Hello Again. So I think it would be nice to know.
Yeah. So marketing is my background. I've been in marketing my whole life. I have a degree in marketing. And several years ago, I worked for a small boutique marketing agency, marketing for, some of the bigger companies, doing sales and marketing for some local big companies here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And when COVID happened, I lost my job. And so that was just my sign of, I need to go a different direction. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And what am I doing working for other people? I need to go into my own direction. So I started a little marketing agency and it did really well. And we had an opportunity at some point during growing the business to work with a cannabis dispensary. They had 5 locations at the time. Today they have 55 locations and we're still working with them. And that led me to kind of go, okay, we're really good at cannabis marketing. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this for several years. Why don't we niche down and just work on dispensary marketing, brand marketing within the cannabis realm industry? And so at the beginning of 2024, the Toke Agency was born. It was launched. And then I really just worked so hard immersing myself in the cannabis industry, meeting people, going to events, connecting with people, looking for partnership opportunities. And so we run retention marketing for dispensaries across the U.S.
Okay, fantastic. So that's your entryway into the business, but now you have this new company.
Right.
So Hello Again was born from that?
No. So Hello Again was an existing business. It was actually founded by 2 women in LA, in California. They founded it in 2019. They were, their kids were grown, out of the house. They were best friends, starting to go through menopause. and they decided to go on a dispensary tour to start looking for options if there was anything out there in the cannabis space for women going through menopause. And in their search and in their tour, they found that there really was nothing besides, you could take gummies or tinctures, but there was really nothing that was specifically formulated for women by women. So that led them on their path of creating the product for Hello Again, which is a vaginal suppository with cannabinoids. So each product is very specifically formulated for the symptoms. We have period, menopause, and sleep. And then each one of them has CBD. It also has botanicals. And then we have minor cannabinoids for each specific product. So fast forward to early 2024, we were looking to sell the company for personal reasons. I happened to get on a phone call with somebody who's like, oh yeah, I'm helping these two women sell this company. I didn't even know what the company was, never even heard of it, but I was going through menopause and I was looking for holistic, all-natural solutions. And because I worked in the cannabis industry, I already knew a lot of the benefits of cannabis, but I didn't want to be high all the time. And so I loved that it was a vaginal suppository. It was originally sold in dispensaries in California only, but when I acquired it, which was in September of 2024, I decided to make it a hemp-based product so that we could sell it nationwide because I felt like women everywhere needed to have access to this product.
Very good. Yeah, that's and it's true that once you start to understand the cannabinoids a little bit deeper, you see all the opportunities that there are for women's health in there.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Now, but then how did you come to cannabis? How did you first come? Can you tell us that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, right? So smoked pot back in college. It never really was one of those things that I loved. I didn't like the feeling of it. So it was not something that stuck with me that I did throughout my adult life. And back in 2018, when the Farm Bill passed and CBD was legalized nationwide, I had an opportunity through a couple of MLMs to start selling tinctures that were CBD. And that led me on this path of educating myself about what really cannabinoids are, minor cannabinoids, THC, all the things. And so because I was trying to sell this tincture back in 2018, 2019, that was a CBD tincture, I also learned about CBG. I also learned about THC. And then also transitioning that to the Toke agency where we're writing content, blogs, emails, text messages, newsletters for our clients. I'm also learning at the same time about what all of the cannabinoids and THC and cannabis does for you. And so I've been on this journey, if you will, for the last 7 years of really informing myself and really understanding the plant better and how it supports your endocannabinoid system, how it supports men and women both, and what it does like recreationally, what it does medicinally, all the different aspects of it. It's a fascinating plant, and there's so many things that are unknown right now because it doesn't get studied legally.
Right, and it seems like the world is sort of opening up. I mean, people are starting to get more cognizant of the fact that there's lots of opportunities here. There's lots of ways that you can blend and modulate cannabinoids, and it is a very, very personal experience. And the goal, obviously, with many is to try to calibrate it specifically, as you mentioned, to sleep, to menopause. So I wanted to ask you this. So as you enter into thinking about women's health, mm-hmm. What are some of the gaps? What are some of the needs that you see as you start to enter into that topic?
That's such a great question, Magnus, because we're in this space right now where HRT is really becoming, or MHT, so it's either hormone replacement therapy or menopause hormone therapy. It depends on, there's people are trying to classify it however different. But for 20 plus years, it was a space where you didn't really dive into hormone therapy because it was known to cause breast cancer. And there were studies and research, and the Women's Health Initiative put that out. And come to find out, it was a lot of false information. It was done on a lot of older women, et cetera, et cetera. And so now there's this huge, huge movement of getting women who are in the menopause age group to really start to revisit hormone therapy. And so I'm diving into all things hormone therapy, right? I'm learning about it. But what I'm also learning is there are women who don't want to be on hormone therapy. It is still a drug. There are still side effects. There are still downsides of it. And I go to events, I talk a lot at different places, events, I show up, I listen, I learn. And women are looking for alternatives or all natural holistic options or supplements or support as well. And so I'm finding that while HRT might be a good path for one person, it might not be the best for everybody. And so I'm just learning all these things about holistic health, holistic wellness, plant-based medicine, and there's a market for it. Women want options, and I want to be able to empower women to educate themselves, to create agency, to ask the right questions, to empower themselves with knowledge so that they can make a decision that's right for them, not the noise that's coming at them from this huge movement.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And cannabis certainly with education gives them the agency to be able to select the hormone therapy that they want.
Right.
Exactly. So why do you think women's needs around periods and menopause are so underserved or overlooked?
Why are women's needs underserved and overlooked in general? It's this lifelong battle that I've gone through my whole life. I'm a 57-year-old woman, and I've never really felt like anybody was really speaking to me until recently, as as women were starting to speak up. I mean, I think I look back at my mom when she was going through menopause and how the doctor put her on antidepressants and anti-anxiety pills. And, she was on all this medication, which made her even more cuckoo than what she was going through. And so I just think we're not small men. We lactate, we ovulate, we give birth. So our bodies are completely different. And I think the medical community has not wanted to study women because we're so complicated, because our hormones shift and change on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, on, every couple years, whatever. And so the medical community doesn't want to invest the time and the money and the energy studying women. They're just rather study men because it's a lot easier. And then they would rather just say, oh, if this is what we do for men, then this is what we do for women. And that's not the case.
That has been my experience, or what my research has revealed. And I find it so surprising because, if for nothing else, women are a majority. You guys are 52%. And when there is a variety of needs, as you mentioned, there's a change from, as you grow, as you ovulate, there's an opportunity for bringing you back to balance. And we both know that cannabis is uniquely qualified to bring people into homeostasis or balance. So it is surprising to me as well. But the work that you're doing is really remarkable, and we're trying to follow in your footsteps with some products that are specifically geared towards women. But it's slowly, the movement is coming.
Slow.
It's slow, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so what kind of feedback have you gotten from your customers so far? What can you share with us?
So first I'm going to talk about myself, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about our customers and the feedback that we get. So for me, I did not realize how dysregulated my endocannabinoid system was. I didn't even know that you could regulate your endocannabinoid system, on a daily basis or anything. So as I started studying it and researching it and realizing how I was starting to feel better, I was like, wow, your endocannabinoid system is like the master regulator of stress, of sleep, of your hormones, but it's not studied because nobody knows too much about it. I mean, we're starting to get there, and more studies are coming out, and the research is far better today than it has been, in the history of time. But to regulate your endocannabinoid system with a natural plant-based medicine that has the same cannabinoids as your body, it just makes sense. So my mood started regulating, my sleep started regulating. I just felt more connected with myself and really felt, I hate to use the word balance, because to me, balance means like you're teeter-tottering on a scale. And that means like if you lift your foot up off of one part of it, then the other part goes down. I don't think of it as balance in that way. I think of it as homeostasis, or as harmony, maybe is a better word. So some of the feedback, we had a woman just recently whose credit card, she lost her credit card. So she was on a subscription, and we canceled her subscription because we couldn't charge her credit card. Anyway, she reached out. We get her, set back up. And the first thing she says is, I missed my hello again. I didn't realize how much I needed it for my mental clarity. And to me, that was so impactful, because it's not like you just have this moment of taking hello again and you're like, oh, everything seems clearer. It's consistency over time that you start to create that harmony. And what she was realizing is she had been a subscriber for a while, so she was using it regularly. And then because she didn't have it for a period of time, she kind of felt the drop in her regulation of her endocannabinoid system. So she's like, I didn't realize how much I needed it for mental clarity. So that was a really good piece of feedback. And then I had another woman who tried it. A friend of hers gave her like a couple of suppositories because she was experiencing some sleep issues, and gave her a couple for like 2 nights sleep. And she wrote back and said those were the best 2 nights sleep she's had in like 18 months.
Oh, wow. Wow. Those are good reports. And
Yeah.
And when I was listening to you describe the woman who lost the prescription, it made me think, in addition to the body balance that you receive, there's also a mental clarity, a security, just knowing that you have something that's going to combat your ailment.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, endometriosis gets brought up with some frequency in these circles, and I wanted to ask you, have you had any responses or any data on endometriosis that you can share?
So I will tell you, Magnus, we have a lot of women who use our period product, because our period product has a high concentration of CBD and a high concentration of CBG, which is also an anti-inflammatory. And the powerful synergistic combination really helps with relief of pain. And so we do have a lot of women who reach out to us and tell us that they do have endometriosis, and that this helps relieve the pain, and it helps them just function better with a little bit more clarity for your mind, but really it's relieving your body. We did a webinar a couple of months ago with a sex therapist who runs groups for endometriosis because she herself has experienced it. She's a huge fan of the product and she shares the product with her groups. And so look, nothing is going to cure 100% of what you have. It's not going to cure your endometriosis, but it is going to help relieve the pain and the inflammation. That's what it's going to do. And so we get a lot of information. We get a lot of feedback from women who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, who have endometriosis. There's trials going on right now for using CBD for endometriosis, that they're trying clinical trials that are getting put on, not through us, not through Hello Again, but through other products to help with endometriosis.
Yeah, and it is a very tricky situation that is resolved by surgery, very significant. So one of the goals that we have with Guided by Wellness is not only to inform consumers, but also to help guide budtenders who have to have these conversations. So I'm interested in hearing budtender education to consumer. I mean, these are touchy subjects. How do we talk about vaginal absorption of cannabinoids with customers, and how does it compare to tinctures and other things?
So, the product was originally sold in dispensaries in California only, and there was a huge lift on budtender, education. They had to have reps go in, almost like pharmaceutical reps, and educate the budtenders on the product and the delivery method and the bioavailability. Since I have acquired the company, we sell nationwide via e-commerce, so women could go on and educate themselves with our content and our blogs and our newsletters and our social posts and all of that stuff. The goal eventually would be to offer it again in retail locations. That might be something we could do in the future. But to have that conversation requires a lot of education. And it also, you have to move past that uncomfortability, right? Because you have to talk in a very clinical manner. Like when you insert a vaginal suppository into a woman's vagina, Hello Again's products are cocoa butter based. They're designed to melt with the heat of your body temperature. So they are going to melt. They're going to get absorbed into your vaginal walls. And your vaginal walls are loaded with cannabinoid receptors, as well as they're in mucosis. And so it gets absorbed into your vaginal walls, versus if you take something orally, it has to go through your digestive system. So the bioavailability of an oral, like a tincture, well, a tincture is going to get absorbed if you put it under your tongue, it's going to get absorbed. But something like a topical or something like a pill or a gummy or a chocolate or an edible or whatever, it has to go through your entire digestive system. So bioavailability is probably around 10 to 20%. And I'm quoting in general, I don't have exact statistics, but the bioavailability vaginally is more like 75 to 90% because of the deliverability. And look, this is like, you get all the bonuses. It acts as a lubrication because it is cocoa butter based. It's going to relax your pelvic floor, so it's going to allow you to enjoy your sexual experience a little bit, more with a relaxed pelvic floor. And it delivers all the benefits where a woman needs it the most, which is in her pelvic region.
Right, and as we know, the endocannabinoid system is very active in the reproductive system. So the distribution of the bioavailable cannabinoid should be very good and well distributed. That makes so much sense to me as I'm listening to you say it, that a limited percentage is going to actually get to where it needs to be if it's taken orally. So
right.
that makes total sense. Thank you for that. So I wanted to ask, now there's so many opportunities for misconceptions. So I want to know what are some of the most common misconceptions that people have about vaginal cannabis products?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? Okay, so, if you haven't used a suppository, if a woman has never used a suppository, first of all, you have to get over that hurdle these are, I want to show you the size of these, if you will allow me, because, and I'm sorry, it's loud, so this is what they look like. They come in a little sealed case, if you will, and you literally just peel it and it comes out. So I want to show you how tiny they are. So one of the things that we hear is, they're uncomfortable inserting something in their vagina, but it's a quarter of the size of a tampon. So that's one thing. I guess the other thing is wanting to make sure that there's pH balance, which we have never ever in the history of our company had any problems with a pH balance, with a woman having problems with their pH balance. As a matter of fact, we have apple cider vinegar in some of our products to help balance your pH as well. The other thing is, the last thing is cannabinoids, right? Like, one of our sayings is, you want me to put that where? Because it is a cannabinoid based product, right? And it has botanicals. So we have lang lang and lemon balm and lavender and, all these different botanicals and adaptogens to help support what we're putting in there, which is the cannabinoids. So, we get a lot of questions like, will I get high? You won't. It's a CBD product. We get questions like, will my boyfriend or partner get high if they're performing oral sex? And no, the answer is no. It does leak a little bit because it is melting in your body. And so, there's a little bit of messiness if it's not completely absorbed. So we encourage our customers to lay down for a few minutes to let it get absorbed. We have to overcome the barrier of wanting to put something in your vagina. I will also say, in America, it is not a common delivery method, but in Europe and in other countries, Africa, Europe, South America, it's very common to use a vaginal suppository or a rectal suppository for medication. We're just not used to it here in the US. And so it's overcoming these barriers of education. It's almost like in Europe, it would be a very common thing. And men use our product as well. They use it rectally as well. We have men who have cancer. We have men who have, pain. We have men who use it for sex. And so it's just getting over that stigma of it's a vaginal suppository.
Right. And so you brought up the high. I want to ask. So how do your products avoid getting consumers high if they contain THC?
So we have a hemp-based product. There's no THC in it. It's a hemp-based product. It's a full spectrum hemp-based product, and it does have the legal limit of 0.3% THC. But because you are not digesting it, because you're not ingesting it, because it's not processed through your liver, you are not going to get any type of head high whatsoever. It's going to get absorbed into your vaginal walls.
Right. And I had this conversation with a physician who was on here who we were having a conversation about the need for minor THC just to get the party going. We don't need to get people high for it to function or work, but the cannabinoids are going to function without it.
Right.
So you talked about the botanicals. You listed the botanicals. So what role do the botanicals play? And you said you have a full spectrum. Can you talk a little bit about what the impact of the full spectrum and the botanicals are?
So full spectrum versus broad spectrum means it's the entire plant. So when we say full spectrum CBD, it is that 0.3% THC. It is, and we have COAs, which are certificate of analysis. We have those on our website, so you could go in and see exactly what's in each product. It's third-party tested, but so it has a high concentration of CBD, but because it's full spectrum, it might have small concentration of other cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids in there. And then when you combine the CBD with the other cannabinoids, so let's just take period, for example, because we have the CBD and we have CBG, you're going to get that synergistic effect. So the CBG combined, you're getting that. And then we have Lang Lang, we have lemon balm, we have other botanicals that enhance that as well. And so you're getting this full effect based on a lot of these botanicals and adaptogens that are known. I mean, lemon balm is a known anti-inflammatory, so you're getting this synergistic effect of the cannabinoids as well as the botanicals.
Okay, so the last question, sort of in the budtender or the dispensary realm. So how do you recommend customers or budtenders sort of approach the topic of vaginal suppositories?
That's a really challenging one. Like for us, we have videos, we have content, we have emails, we have blogs, we say catchy, cheeky things like, you want me to put that where? Mm-hmm. And these are designed to melt and insert, and relax. We have these really cheeky sayings because our brand is cheeky. But when you're trying to educate a consumer or a budtender or a customer, you have to ask them, what exactly are you looking for? What kind of relief are you looking for? Do you need to sleep better? Do you need to have more mental clarity? Do you need to get rid of pain from endometriosis or cramping or polycystic ovarian syndrome? What are your symptoms that you're experiencing? And I think it's always good to say, there are options, and I want Hello Again to be one of the options to help support you. So the other thing is, do you want to take a gummy or a tincture? Do you want a topical? Do you want a patch? Do you want a pill? What have you tried already that hasn't worked, so that we could give you suggestions on things that could possibly work?
Right, and that to me sounds like the perfect way to approach a customer who's coming in. But how do we get budtenders to show that level of empathy?
I think honestly, when I'm going to kind of stereotype a little bit, most budtenders are male and they're mostly in their 20s. Is what I have found when I'm going to dispensaries and when I'm talking and speaking with dispensaries. Not all, a lot of them.
No, but a majority. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
And these young men don't know a lot about what a woman who's in her mid-40s, mid-50s are going through hormonally. And so I think there has to be this level of education. And you have to get past the giggles, right? You have to get past that this is funny, and you have to really be empathetic to what a woman who's in her mid-40s or 50s is going through. And I think that just requires so much education and understanding of, look, my hormones don't act like your hormones. They are different, and they are all over the place. When I'm on my period, when I'm having a baby, when I'm nursing, they're all over the place. And so I think that really stems from what we talked about earlier, is the lack of medical information and studies on women alone. And so how do we start to change that conversation? I mean, these are powerful questions that you're asking me. And if I had like a one-word answer, I would give it to you, but I think it's just all encompassing. We have to start changing those conversations and not make it uncomfortable for anybody. You know, when you say the word vagina, people go, like, they kind of squirm or they shy away from it. Why do we make a woman's body part kind of a squirmy thing? You know, like, it shouldn't be. You can't even say the word vagina on social media. Why? It's a technical term for a body part.
Right. Where do they draw the lines?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, yeah. And, you know, I have to be honest, you know, I'm asking this question because we're working on, you know, obviously this podcast is intended to educate budtenders as well as customers. We're also rolling out a six class certification for budtenders, and we are sort of through this podcast, we're gathering information and trying to see what is it that we need to include and where does the focus have to be.
I mean, I think you have to get past the uncomfortability of saying the word vagina, of asking the right questions, and you have to get past the giggles and just shoot straight and talk direct. And I think that's where we've always put these fake words and, you know, misnomers out, and we have to educate. Like, it just comes from education.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just talking about the bioavailability and the, you know, using vaginal suppositories to get straight access to the reproductive system is a really powerful argument. Very powerful argument. And okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions about sort of you. So, Hello Again, how has Hello Again helped normalize conversation about vaginal and hormonal wellness?
So I have educated myself literally, that's all I do. I feel like every single day is educate myself on hormones, balance, women's wellness, cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids, you know, vaginal suppositories, the deliverability method. And so it's really opened the doors for me to be in these rooms and to be at these events and to have these conversations with women who are making changes happen, who are speaking to vast majorities of women who are getting their attention, and women are starting to realize, like, I might need some help with my hormone support. I might need hormone replacement. I might need a supplement. And so it's allowed me to really put myself in rooms with women who are making change happen. And then not only that, it's allowed me to be in rooms in the cannabis space where I now have a brand. I now own a brand that women are curious about. They want to know more about it. You know, if in the cannabis space, chances are you know about cannabinoid wellness, but the fact that you have cannabinoid wellness that is not a gummy, not a tincture, not a topical, and it's a different delivery method, that women are curious. And so it's opened doors for me to be on podcast, to be interviewed, to share my story, to really connect with women in this space and understand their story, what their pain points are, what they're going through. You know, we're in the process of interviewing customers right now and really understanding, like, what led them to start looking for something like Hello Again.
Right, and well, that's a great segue into my next question was going to be, so where do you tell women to start? A woman who's interested, where do they start?
Yeah, so we have tons of education on our website. We have blogs, we have articles. I would suggest some of these podcasts that I've been on. We're in the process of updating a lot of information. And so these will also be on our website where you could go and listen to the podcast. We send out a weekly newsletter with a lot of great information that's educational as well as informative. we post on social media as far as like not only about our product, but what's going on in the different communities and what's going on, nationwide regarding menopause products or sleep products or period products. I mean, we try to stay abreast, and we're constantly not only educating ourselves, but educating our consumers as well.
Right. And the availability of information that's approachable is improving now that we've stopped focusing just on getting people high.
Right.
That's great. So what are some of the surprising, so in terms of customer feedback, now you're talking about going out, talking to your customers.
Yeah.
What are some of the surprising or emotional responses that you've heard from women who either have used your product or have searched for products?
So I think some of the feedback that we got was, that they're skeptical at first because it is a different, deliverability method. It is cannabinoids in a vaginal suppository. So I think some of the feedback that we get was skeptical at first, but then, just using the period product as an example, some of the women that we've interviewed have had severe endometriosis or severe period pain, cramping, bloating, brain fog, moodiness, PMS. And what I'm hearing is that they have found relief from using Hello Again. And like I said, it's not a one and done thing. This is something you have to use consistently over time. I'm sure you know that your endocannabinoid system needs to stay regulated. And one of the ways that you could consistently regulate it is with cannabinoids.
Right. And as it was explained here on the podcast, the body absorbs the body fat will store some of your cannabinoids, and the body will draw from them, just like it does with your vitamin C or B. The body takes from the reserves and until they're depleted.
Right.
Well, all right. So, where do you see women's health and wellness related to cannabis going in the next few years?
Well, everything I read and research is vaginal suppositories, for one, are going to be this billion-dollar market in the next 5 years. And it's going to be very common here in the US to use a vaginal suppository for all kinds of medical reasons, not just a cannabinoid, right? So that is one thing that I see happening. The other thing I see happening with these women that I tell you have loud voices and big platforms who are changing the game of, talking about menopause, talking about hormone replacement therapy, talking about the issues related to your period, your endometriosis, your polycystic ovarian syndrome, your sleep issues. And I see this only going, moving forward. And then as far as like the cannabis sector or the cannabinoids or the minor cannabinoids or CBD, I think, Big Pharma has a lot of big money and a lot of big power. And they don't want products that are all natural, holistic products that work. And they don't want people talking about how well they work. They don't want subject matter experts. They don't want, double-blind placebo trials to really get into the mainstream, because then that changes what they have to do and that changes their message. And so they have a lot of big power and a lot of big bucks to constantly keep those voices down. But I think we're starting to see more and more research and more studies done in other countries outside of the US that is saying this really works. We're seeing it work for pain. We're seeing it work for anxiety. We're seeing it work for sleep. We're seeing it work for, issue after issue after issue, and there's study after study. And so I personally, Magnus, would love to see in 5 years from now that it's such a common thing to use cannabinoids as part of your supplement stack or your wellness stack, that it's not even, considered an outlier.
That certainly, I hope so as well. Thank you for that. Now, I do want to, there's one thing that I do with my guests, and that I try to pull out a myth and talk about the myth, and then I will go and I research and I will share the science behind it. The myth that I've selected for you is cannabis just masks menstrual pain. It doesn't actually help the root issue. So the fact as we see it is, while cannabis doesn't cure menstrual-related disorders, studies show reduces inflammation, regulates mood, and relieves pain by interacting with the endocannabinoid system, which helps manage key reproductive and immune functions. So the myth that cannabis just masks it. What have you learned scientifically about the cannabis just masking the pain?
Yeah. So this kind of goes back to what I just said a little bit ago is, the pharmaceutical world creates pharmaceuticals to mask your symptoms. You're never, ever getting to the root cause of your symptoms. And I believe that when you apply, take, insert, whatever, swallow a cannabinoid, you are actually getting to the root of what some of the problems are. The endocannabinoid system is the master regulator of pain, stress, sleep, hormones. So you're getting to the root cause of what is really going on in your body, in a male body, in a female body, in anybody's. So you're not masking anything. How are you masking? This isn't a medication where it's just going to temporarily relieve the pain. It is getting to the endocannabinoid system to create that harmony, to create that regulation. And so that's where I think the pharmaceutical companies get leery and weary about CBD, THC, cannabinoids in general.
Right, and as I read this myth, as I thought it through and read through the data, there is a possibility that people are taking THC rich strains that offer little else in cannabinoids or terpenes, and yes, that can just mask the period cramp. But as you pointed out earlier, we need to focus on products that are full spectrum, multiple cannabinoids that offer the entourage effect and that work specifically on the ailments that you're trying to solve. THC is not a solution to all, and what may work for you may not work for other women. You need to dial it in. You need to think about how sensitive are you. So there are many things, as you point out, that need to be reviewed, but cannabis does help, and it does not just mask if prescribed correctly.
Correct. And I want to just kind of, add to that is, look, if you want to take THC to get high, take THC to get high. If you're looking for a recreational use of it, by all means, do whatever works for you. But that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about medicinally getting to the root of the problem, where I don't want to be high every day, but I want to balance my cannabinoids. I want to regulate my cannabinoids. And so how do I do that with a product or a solution that I'm not looking for a recreational high?
Right, and if I can brag a little bit, one of our products that contains 2.5 milligrams THC, significant number of CBD and CBG, and we talk about that as being a product that people who are interested in gardening or playing the piano or watching your grandkids, but you don't want your knees to hurt. And that's really it. So we need to, and And I think what's plagued the industry is all this focus on high THC, and the stoner culture has kind of sort of ruined it for those who are serious about the medicine and want to promote that. So, yes, that's well seen.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
All right. Well, thank you again for agreeing to be on, and I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Magnus. I loved this conversation. Thank you for allowing me to share my story, a little bit more about my product, my knowledge, my education, and my opinion.
Thank you so much. Huge thanks to Lisa Williams for sharing her vision and voice with us today. Whether you're a budtender guiding a customer or a woman exploring your wellness options, this episode reminds us that cannabis can be feminine, functional, and freeing. Next time, we'll take a look at how the cannabis industry can better support new users through effect-based labeling and smarter in-store education. Until then, stay curious and keep guiding with wellness. Are you seeing more women ask about cannabis for periods, menopause, or hormonal health? Tell us how you're supporting them. We'd love to feature your stories and strategies. Until then, stay curious and keep guiding with wellness in mind.
Thanks for watching Guided by Wellness. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.